What does core strength mean?
Use your core more.
According to a recent survey we conducted, core strength means a lot of different things, from the strength in the muscles at the back of your body to the strength of your abs. But by far, the most common answer was the ability to create body tension on the wall. And to train core strength, answers varied even more, from planks to deadlifts to leg raises to front levers and everything in between. But here's the problem. Most of those answers are wrong, at least in my opinion. Though within the time span of this video, I think I can convince you to see it my way. Using a little survey data, some principles of biomechanics in climbing, and my experience as a physical therapist, we're going to highlight 4 mistakes climbers are consistently making when it comes to core strength and body tension. And then at the end, I'll provide recommendations for how to train them. Some of the things we discuss might have you reassessing a lot of your training decisions, as well as your answer to the age-old question, how do I get better body tension? Mistake number 1, defining core strength however we want. The first mistake is really no one's fault in particular. It's more so an issue the climbing community faces as a whole. We use terms that aren't clearly defined. To understand why this is such a problem, consider the following sequence. There is no official climbing dictionary. Climbers use core strength in variable ways. Core strength ceases to refer to one specific thing. No one exactly knows what the other is referring to when saying core strength. Assumptions or guesses cause errors in communication. Training and technique decisions are made in error. Goals are not met. Time and energy is wasted. Climbing or fitness suffers. To avoid this, we should adopt a single definition of core strength. We can avoid arbitrarily making up a definition by basing it on existing anatomical literature. So, the definition of core strength would be the strength of the structures that compose the 3-dimensional space in our middle section, with the upper boundary being the diaphragm, the front and sides being the rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, and oblique muscles, the rear being the paraspinal and gluteal muscles, and the bottom being the pelvic floor and hip girdle. So basically, it's a cylinder of meat around our middle. Now, if for some reason you think this definition is dumb and you refuse to use it, well, that's fine, because the other mistakes we're discussing will still apply. No matter how you define your core, obviously we need to strengthen all those muscles to help us climb better, right? This leads us to our second mistake, thinking body tension only depends on strength. This one always seems to lead to a lot of confusion and wasted training time. Just because you have good strength, whether that's strength in your core or your fingers or anything in between, does not mean you will have good body tension. Here's an example. Imagine you're on an overhanging climb and there's a move that requires a lot of body tension. Body tension is a broad term, so for simplicity, let's just say it's the ability to maintain control while doing a move. If you have no body tension, you'll flop off the wall like a wet noodle. So, we need to find a way to create body tension so we can control our momentum and stay on the wall without falling. To accomplish this, we'll need 1, to identify a balanced and stable body position, 2, to engage the right muscles to achieve and maintain that position temporarily, and 3, enough strength in those muscles to make it all possible in the first place. In other words, to achieve body tension, we need technique, coordination, and strength. Clearly, strength is not the only factor. If we're severely lacking in one of those categories, our body tension will suffer. Of course, there will be some overlap and interplay between these categories. For example, training a muscle can improve our mind-body connection to it. So certain strength training exercises can improve our coordination. However, it would still be a mistake to think strength training is the only thing that matters for body tension. Check this out. If I catch a hold with elbows straight and shoulders disengaged, I can't control the momentum at all, so I fly off. If I catch the hold with bent elbows and shoulders engaged, now I can easily control my momentum and generate great tension. My muscles didn't get twice as strong in between attempts, I just improved my technique and coordination. So, if you feel that you're lacking body tension on a climb, don't immediately assume you're too weak. And if you think your issue is specifically your core, realize you might have a perfectly adequate core that just lacks coordination rather than a weak core that needs tons of strengthening. Okay, now you might be thinking, I get it, but I'm pretty sure my technique and coordination are fine. So it must be core strength that's my issue, right? Not so fast. Mistake number 3, thinking body tension comes mainly from the core. While core strength definitely does play a role in body tension, it's not the biggest contributing factor. All 3 regions, the upper body, lower body, and core, can play key roles in body tension, but don't be fooled into thinking they play equal roles. Just because all these muscles are being used to create body tension does not mean they're being used the same amount. Our fingers, forearms, shoulders, and back are usually being heavily taxed, meaning they'll often be the first thing to fail or hold us back. On the other hand, our calf muscles are also being used, but they're being taxed relatively little compared to our upper bodies. Our hamstrings are being used, but usually they're far from maxing out, and our core muscles are being used, but they're almost never under so much stress that they'll become a point of failure. So all these core and leg muscles are definitely being used to help create body tension, but that doesn't necessarily mean strengthening them would help get us more body tension. So now you might be thinking, ugh, even if it might not be holding me back, I might as well train it just in case, right? The answer lies in our final mistake. Mistake 4, ignoring training priorities. One thing that I found particularly interesting in the results of our survey was that very few people thought core strength was one of their top 3 weaknesses, and yet about 2/3 of people said that they've been doing core strength training to improve their climbing. There could be many reasons for this discrepancy, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be doing that, but it does remind me of another really common mistake. Climbers often think we should train core strength just because it sounds important, or because we hear other people talking about it. But since we all have a limited amount of time and energy to spend on training, we need to be more strategic with our training choices. If we spend a bunch of time doing exercises and drills that don't help us reach our goals, we're either wasting time or we need to reevaluate our goals. So, before you start core training, ask yourself, what is my main goal with training? What do I think are the best steps to accomplish that goal? And is core strength high enough on that list to warrant training? Let's use a common example. Say climber A's main goal with training is to increase their body tension for climbing. They suspect finger strength, technique, and shoulder strength are the main things that will help them accomplish this, so those are their top training priorities. They have enough time after their sessions to also add in core strength training, but after some experimenting, they find core training makes them more tired the next session and they can't complete their other training as effectively. Therefore, core strength training for climber A is probably not a good choice. Say climber B's main goal is to lose weight and increase their general athleticism as broadly as possible, with climbing as a fun side hobby. They've never done much training before, so they start by hitting as many muscles as they can with compound exercises. Core strength training with compound exercises is in line with their goals and they enjoy doing them. Therefore, core strength training for climber B is probably a good choice. As you can see, everything depends on your goals and your resources. But if you decide you do want to train core strength or body tension, how should you go about it? For core strength that's still functional for climbing, you should focus on the cylinder of muscles in the middle of your body with a bias towards the obliques more than the rectus abdominis. There are a million different ways to hit these muscles, but my personal favorites are the following variations. For obliques, I like side planks and Copenhagen planks, both progressed with hip dips and added weight. For rotational core strength, I like band resisted trunk rotation, progressed with thicker bands. For the anterior chain, I like plank shoulder taps progressing to plank rows with dumbbells. For posterior chain and a little extra spice, I like offset/fulcrum deadlifts progressing with added weight. These exercises were chosen because they are approachable and progressible for pretty much anyone and can benefit other areas of your climbing training, such as improving shoulder stability. If you find any of these exercises to be extremely hard, even in their base form, it may indicate you have some weakness there. For body tension, we now know it's a combination of technique, coordination, and strength. But we also know that the strength aspect is mostly facilitated by fingers, shoulders, and back. We can target all 3 categories of body tension by climbing on overhangs with holds that require precise footwork, consciously trying to keep our feet on when possible. This is, in my opinion, the simplest and broadest way to increase body tension. However, if we want to train the strength aspect of body tension off the wall, here are a few of my favorites. Max hangs on a hangboard for finger strength and recruitment, weighted pull-ups and one-arms or assisted pull-ups if you can't do body weight to increase that back and shoulder strength, inverted rows for a different but equally important back and shoulder strengthening exercise, which also involves the posterior chain, progressing to toes on a box, then one-arm variations or even feet-off variations. Campus boarding, not as much in this case for strength, but to help you practice coordination and joint engagement, while being able to use your feet if regular campusing is too hard. And face pulls with an overhead press to encourage good scapular mechanics, and for a little extra fun, do them on a single leg to slightly increase core engagement. My final advice is to remember that having a strong core for climbing is necessary, but that doesn't mean your core is currently too weak and needs training. You don't need to be able to plank for 4 minutes to climb V5, deadlift your body weight to have good body tension for climbing, or be able to do 50 leg lifts to be able to keep your feet on in the cave. On the other hand, if core training effectively helps you reach your goals, then it's a great choice. So did I convince you? Do you think I'm right about core strength and body tension? Let me know what your favorite ways of training those are, and if I didn't convince you, let me know why. Until next time, train based on your goals, climb, send, and repeat.